The next to last week of session, it was busy and also extremely productive for us this week. Got a number of things we could talk about, ranging from finishing the budget off. But I think three things that we really want to highlight this week that a lot of effort has been put into this session are the work that David Wood has done on the foundation funding formula, the work that Justin Alferman and Representative Duggar have done on voter ID, and also the extraordinary and historic work that Representative Rader did on paycheck protection this week. So with that, I'll start with Representative Wood to talk a little bit about the changes and the override of the governor's veto on the foundation formula bill.
You know, I'm very thrilled that we got to override the governor on this foundation formula. It's going to be good for education to actually have a foundation formula that we can fund, that we can move towards early childhood education, that we can meet the numbers and not grow the formula out of control. It's going to make it more stable for the local districts. They're going to be able to budget their money accordingly. We're going to be better off education-wise all across the state, and it's going to benefit every school district in the state of Missouri. So I think it was very worthwhile to take on. I'm very glad the Senate took it up as quick as they did. I was appreciative of the organizations, whether they come out for or against, they stood down. They didn't go after us. They didn't make it tough on our representatives and senators to take the vote. The only one really screaming against it was the governor, and I wished he would have listened to us and worked with us ahead of time and come to an agreement without having to go through all of this. But, you know, we do what we have to do.
With it allowing growth every other year, then when's the first year that we'll see it go up again? Is it next?
We'll actually have to fully fund to 6241 next year, which would take approximately $90 million. Then the following year it will be readjusted. It would be a little over $6,300 for an SAT, and that would be an additional $100 million or so. So, you know, we're going to have some things kick in. We're going to have some expenses, but by having that goal lowered, we'll be able to afford the early childhood education going across the state.
Do you think this was more about politics than principle as far as what the governor was doing?
You know, I'm a math teacher, so when it comes to an equation and formulas, I see that they balance. You put the numbers in, they get calculated. And if the formula makes sense, then it works. The governor ignored the formula altogether and was looking at imaginary numbers with $550 million coming into the state that we don't have. And if we did find that money, it would be an additional $400 million in 2 years, which we can't find $1 billion in 2 years. It just isn't realistic. But he wanted to hold on to that dream, just like I wanted to hold on to the dream of my Powerball ticket that I bought yesterday. And regrettably, I lost, but I have another chance coming up, I guess, on Saturday for $418 million.
Will you be here Monday if you hit?
You bet I will.
You better be.
I will be here Monday, and my campaign account will have a huge amount in it for me to just play around with and fully fund my account on my own. So that would be a good, fun thing to do. Of course, all my representative friends would be being my best friend immediately, but that's okay.
I think you'd take care of the speaker, wouldn't you?
You bet.
Okay, good.
That's that run for governor, is that
No,
in there?
Sir. The next thing we want to highlight, if you guys are done on that, is obviously something that's been a big priority for this caucus since I've been in the body, and even going back before that is voter ID, and we're really happy the work that we were able to do along with our Senate colleagues this year to advance that measure. The statutory piece came back from the Senate this week. Representative Alferman has been working all session long to get that to a place where we could find some compromise with the Senate. We were able to do that, and I'll let him talk a little bit about that.
I'm extremely grateful and extremely excited that the first time since 2006 the Missouri Senate's actually been able to reach a compromise on this position, and we were actually able to pass this pass this bill through the legislature and get it to the governor's desk. The Missouri House has been able to do it every single year since 2006, and it took a lot of compromise through the Senate and with Representative Duggar and Representative Dogan in the Missouri House in order to reach that compromise position to where we can actually make sure that we get what we were always trying to get done with this bill, which is restore integrity into our election process. This is what this 1631 does, and I'm very excited about the end product.
Do you feel like it's watered down to the point where it's not really that exciting anymore?
I don't, because I don't, because in order to be an effective bill, you have to ask yourself, what are we trying to achieve? And we're trying to make sure that we have integrity restored into our election process. Making sure that every Missourian who has a photo ID shows that photo ID is very important in that process. The supposed 220,000 that the Missouri Secretary of State says that we have, they are still going to be able to allowed to cast a ballot under penalty of perjury, making sure that they sign a statement that says, yes, I understand that the state of Missouri will be providing me an ID for free and that this is the law in the land and I still do not have one. At that time, it's going to take a diligent Secretary of State, local prosecutors, and local election authorities to actually do their due diligence, find these people, and make sure that we do our best effort to get them the identification that they need.
Anything else on that?
I think I'm not sure what we need from them on the
Okay.
floor.
Thank you.
Thanks. Oh, I do want to ask you, though, while Justin's up here, about the gift ban. And to my knowledge, that's still in the Senate, right?
That is still in the Senate. I had a good conversations with Senate leadership today as well, and I'm still pretty confident that we will be able to get some form of that bill back from the Missouri Senate this year.
What do you think the final version of that's going to look like between the two chambers?
Well, between right now what we have, between the House position of 0 and what is current law, which is an unlimited amount of gifts to legislators, I think there's a lot of wiggle room in there. I'm just hopeful that we get some kind of bill back from the Missouri Senate, and at that time we can take a look at what product that they actually end up on, and then we go from there.
Is $50 okay, $40?
Our mark from the beginning of session was we wanted a package of substantive, meaningful ethics bills. And so to the extent that we get something compromised between the House and Senate that we feel, along with Representative Alferman, is substantive and meaningful, then it'll be a step in the right direction. You don't ever come into this building and get everything you want. And a lot of times you don't get that in the first year. So we'll see what the next week brings on it. I just would like to see us get that bill back from the Senate and keep that bill moving through the process. All right. Well, the last thing, obviously, I think the headline for us this week was the override on Paycheck protection. It's something that Representative Rader's been working on for a long time, and consistent with something I set out at the beginning of session, was that we needed to move forward with some labor reform and 21st century labor policies. We were able to work with our caucus members to find the necessary votes to override that veto, and I'll let Representative Rader talk a little bit about that.
I think this bill is very important. It protects our public labor members from the hassle of getting out. So they've always had the opportunity to be able to get out of the union, but because of bureaucratic roadblocks, it's been nearly impossible. And so this just it's just a simple opt-in every year, which is really fair on both sides. So if the union steward wants to provide a great service, then their union membership is going to go up. Where right now, under the antiquated labor laws that we are under, their union membership has continued to go down. So it's a great opportunity for both sides, for the member who is paying those fees and whether they get the service or not, and then also to the union itself. They can increase their membership by providing a better service. So I think it's a wonderful bill. I'm praying that it becomes law, and it still has one more hurdle to go, but with Speaker Richardson and Senate, House leadership, it was very tight, but I had faith in the Speaker that we were going to get it done, and so I do have a tremendous amount of faith in our Senate leadership as well.
Have you had any feedback or discussions with Senate leadership about whether or not this is going to come up soon and what its chances are in the Senate?
I have not. They have a very different animal in the Senate than we do in the House, and so that's definitely in their hands, and I don't want to be in the way.
Smart lady.
What about, on an unrelated note, the PDMP bill? Have you had any discussions with senators on that?
Yes, I've been working that very hard in the Senate for the last several weeks, and so I'm very hopeful. I know we only have a week left, but I'm very hopeful that it will come up and it will get a vote.
What else?
On the MU Study Commission,
Yeah.
with that being passed now, it's up to you and the Senate President to select the membership for that. And I know there's requirements in the resolution, but beyond what's there, what are your thoughts about who needs to be on that? Is the ethnic diversity important? What do you think needs to be in place?
Well, I think the ethnic diversity is important, and just because of some of the range of issues that we're going to ask that commission to look at. But I want to put people on that that study committee that first have a passion for trying to make the University of Missouri the best it can possibly be, but also those that are going to be willing to ask the tough questions and be able to get to some real solutions. So some people with background in higher education, background with the MU system, those are the kinds of people we're going to be looking at. But we've got a list of names that have already started and resumes coming in and suggestions of people. So we'll evaluate those when we get on the other side of next week and make some appointments quickly.
There's a lot of people that want to be on this then.
There are.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think it's because you do have people across the state that have a love and a passion for the University of Missouri, and they'd like to be a part of a substantive process to make it better. And I know that was Senator Schaefer's intent and Representative Rowden's intent in passing the resolution. And so I'm very confident that we're going to have a group of men and women on that commission that are going to come up with a very good product for the university to implement.
With just days left in this session, what would you say is your number one priority to get through before the end?
Well, I think we have a number of priorities that are left and a number of things. But, you know, I started this session talking about ethics reform, so I'm still very hopeful that we'll be able to get at least one more piece of that package done. We're also working very hard on the Transportation Network Company legislation, which you saw us have back out on the floor today. It's an opportunity for Missouri to move into the 21st century and embrace this disruptive technology, which I think is something we ought to be doing. And it also gives us the opportunity to put 10,000 Missourians with the very least a part-time job, which I think would be a great piece of economic development, in addition to bringing a service to the state that the public really likes and enjoys. So we're going to be working hard on that, along with all the bills we've got in conference. That's the nature sort of the beast this time of year.